Hello, and welcome to episode 46 of TBR, the To Be Read podcast, where we talk about the books we love and the topics that interest us. And my name is Patrick Stemp, and I have Michael Ronn here. How are you, Michael?
Great, Patrick. How are you tonight?
Good. After being absent for a week, it's good to have you
Yeah,
back.
good to be back finally.
And Jamie had to do something tonight, so we asked Mr. P.T. Hylton if he wouldn't mind coming on and filling in to co-host with us. So how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, Michael looks very rested after his week off. He looks like he's ready to talk about books.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely well rested when you consider my wife and kid were both sick. So
Oh no.
yeah, yeah, I didn't get much sleep.
You didn't catch it too, did you?
No, thank goodness I didn't.
That's good.
Knock on wood.
So tonight we're going to be talking about our favorite fictional locations. And before we get to that, we'll do our usual roundtable and talk about what we've been reading for the past week. And I'll go left to right on my screen, which means this week I'm going to start with Michael.
Okay. Well, this past week, not too much reading for the reasons I mentioned above, but I did pick up a print book from the library, which is pretty rare for me, but a book that I'm thoroughly enjoying and would highly recommend to anyone if you're into this sort of thing. And it's called Thinking with Type by Ellen Lupton. And it's basically a graphic design book, and it's about fonts. So basically she goes into the history of certain fonts, how it started with calligraphy and, monks with scribes writing and how the letters imitated the motions of their hands as they were writing into more digital typefaces. So talks about the differences between serif and sans serif fonts and really useful stuff if you're ever going to design your own book cover or if you just want to know how to speak your designer's language, really. And it's pretty cool because it's got a lot of really interesting insets, like photographs. I'm trying to find one here.
So while you're looking for that, what font do you use in your books?
I use Baskerville.
Baskerville?
Yeah, Baskerville. And ironically, that's one of the fonts in here that they talk about, how it's such a usable font. But you can kind of see some, and sorry for the audio listeners, but you can kind of see some of the font examples in here. Really nice, really cool pictures, and it talks about the history and things like that, and it shows letters like really close up, and it actually dissects a letter. Like, I didn't know letters had parts to them, like a lowercase g, how you have the little circle at the top and then it goes down. Like, each part of the G has a different letter, a different name associated with it, which is kind of interesting. I'm kind of into that sort of thing. So yeah, I've been really enjoying this one, and probably pick up some more graphic design books. I've just
out of curiosity, then, PT, what font do you use? Do you know?
I don't even know. I'll have to go look and get back to you on that. I can't remember.
And I'm using Garamond.
Garamond is a good font too. That's primarily for print.
That's actually one. I think that's one that Garrett Robinson had suggested on one of his.
Yeah.
I don't know, some video he did, and I tried it, and I was like, yeah, I like it. It looks nice.
Yeah, Garamond is a good, clean font too, and it really translates well into print. And Baskerville is actually the font that the Amazon Kindle uses as its default. They switched it a while back, a few years ago, and it's Baskerville now. So if you have a Kindle and you fire it up, chances are the default font is Baskerville. So I figure, well, if that's the default, 80% of my readers are going to be reading that, so I might as well do it. And most of the other devices support it, so
Interesting.
Not a bad choice if you're having a font crisis and figuring out what to use. But
I'm always having a font crisis.
Aren't we all, right? Especially, I'm not a graphic designer at all, so anytime I'm putting two fonts together, I'm like, it's like a kid playing with blocks.
We should all rally around Comic Sans. It's going to make a comeback.
One of these days, right? Yeah. Well, that's pretty much all I've had a chance to read, but got my mojo back. So next week, I'm going to finish Libby Hawker's book. Didn't get a chance to finish that, so I'm looking forward to that, and probably some more romance novels.
Is that the Take Your Pants Off? Not the romance novels, because it's
No.
I was like, we're going there. Okay.
Libby Hawker's book.
That's not romance. I think that's another a more active romance.
So Libby Hawker's book that you didn't finish, that's Take Your Pants
Take
Off?
Your Pants Off, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Take Your Pants Off, and I picked up some more non-related romance books from the library.
Okay.
So.
I look forward to you hearing your review, Michael, next week, and you being like, "Man, it was a great book, but I don't know about the font."
Yeah, I have
Become
to
a
think
real
about that.
a font snob. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay, so PT, what have you been up to in your reading life?
We got a few things I read this week. Picked up this graphic novel from the library that you kind of see here. It's called The Pride of Baghdad. It's
Okay.
by
Nice.
Brian K. Vaughan is the writer. He wrote like Why the Last Man, and he was a writer on Lost and stuff like that. But anyway, this is based on a true story that was apparently in 2003 during the war in Iraq. At that time, a bunch of lions escaped from the zoo and kind of wandered the city. So this is that story, but fictionalized, like from their perspective, like what they were thinking and stuff like that. So pretty cool graphic novel. I recommend it.
Cool. I'll have
Um,
to add that one to my list.
yeah, Brian K. Vaughan is definitely one of my favorite
Yeah.
graphic novel
Why the
writers.
Last Man was pretty funny.
For sure. And then I read. I don't know if you guys have heard of the three body problem, but it was just translated into English like in this last fall. But it was like I think it's the best-selling science fiction novel of all time in China. It's a Chinese novel, and it's like a big. Apparently, it was quite the big deal or whatever there. And it was a few years ago, but it was just translated into English. So I read that, and it was pretty good. It was. I will say that the Western world bestsellers don't have quite as much in-depth physics in them as this book had. It was like getting deep into the math and the physics, where I was like a lot of the action plot points revolved around like physics and stuff like that I was not used to reading about in my normal book. But it was really interesting just from the different, seeing that different perspective and everything. And it's kind of this virtual reality game that revolves around this physics problem that if three bodies in space are orbiting each other, it's impossible to predict like what pattern they'll go in. So so a thrilling one about a physics problem. But
So is that like when you say virtual reality? Is it like a game kind of like? Would you say it's a little like Ready Player One, or I don't know if you've read that, but
yeah. Indeed, I have, and we might hear something about that later in the
okay.
podcast. I don't know, but yeah, it's kind of that kind of an idea. Except the people who are playing it are all like physicists who are using this virtual reality game to kind of try to solve this problem.
Okay.
So it's definitely interesting, definitely very different than the science fiction that I usually read.
Okay.
And then the final one that I picked up and just started is Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson, which is like his huge. I downloaded the audiobook of it, and the audiobook is 48 hours long.
Oh my God.
So I'm going to be reading that one for a little bit. But that's like it's the second book in like his huge, ridiculous Storm. I think it's called Stormlight Archives series. So, yeah, so we'll see. I like the first one a lot. But this one's quite a bit longer than the first one, but we'll see.
Okay.
How about you, Patrick?
I was just gonna say I always get distracted with your bookshelf behind you there. Like so, I'm looking. I'm looking at it, so I can see Max Perry's lexicon above your head, and I'm like, oh, that was a really good one. I'm trying to figure out what Scalzi that is. Is that Red Shirts?
Yeah.
To your left?
Yeah, this is Red Shirts here.
Is that Red Shirts?
Yep.
Okay, cool. That was a great one too. We just rewatched Galaxy Quest this past weekend.
Yeah.
That's a great movie. Red Shirts reminds me of that movie, of course.
Yep.
So my weekend reading, I read or reread. It's been a bunch of years, but Donald Westlake's the first book in his John Dortmunder series. It's called The Hot Rock. And this is a series of books that kind of circles around this group of misfits, and they always involve heists. And so in this, the first book in the series, we kind of get introduced to this band of characters, and they've got this bar that they go to late at night to plan their heists, and the bartender only knows them by what they drink. And in this one, they get hired by a African country to steal a emerald from a museum, and basically they end up having to heist this emerald like 5 times. Things just keep going wrong. All of their heists are successful, but they keep having to reheist the darn thing. And anyway, it's tongue in cheek. It's funny, fun dialogue. It's a kind of a quick fun read, and I think I'm going to continue with that series. I've been wanting to reread Donald Westlake, and then I actually just poking around on my Kindle, it turned out that kind of unusually, but the first book in the series is free if you're in Kindle Unlimited.
Cool.
If you've got Prime, and so I snatched it up because that's kind of unusual for a traditional publisher to put those kinds of books up for free. So I snatched it, and then I finished reading it, and then it pops up and says, here's what people typically read next, and it was book 2, and it's free too. So I grabbed that. I'm going to keep going as long as I can, and I'll start buying them when they stop being free. But it's a series that I read a long time ago and kind of want to revisit. And then, this is another week where I kind of did a lot of touching on other books. I'm still working on yours, Isaac Asimov, which is just a fantastic collection of all the letters, not even close to all the letters, but a bunch of letters that he wrote to other science fiction authors, to fans, children, universities, all kinds of things. And earlier in the book, he had mentioned that he's a huge fan of P.G. Wodehouse, so I had started reading one of the books in the Jeeves series.
Yeah, good stuff.
And then last night I was reading kind of the next section, and there was a letter that he had written. I can't remember who the letter was to, but he was saying that his favorite book since he was a kid, read it at least 25 times when he was a teenager, still reading it in the 80s, was The Pickwick Papers by Charles Dickens. So I was like, okay, I don't think I've ever read that, so I went looking for that and ended up getting like everything Dickens ever wrote for like $2 because all this stuff is all public domain now, right?
Yeah.
And hey, people who bought that also bought the entire Sherlock Holmes collection for $1. So way too much garbage on my Kindle now, because I also just last week picked up the complete Raymond Chandler and Dashiell Hammett collections for again for $1. You can't go wrong for $1, especially if you've already read these things and know that you love them. But I'm going to run out of space on my Kindle, so I have a lot of reading to do.
Yeah.
Nice.
So did you actually read any of the P.G. Wodehouse stuff, or did you just grab it?
I have started. I've actually had that one. That series has been on my to be read list for years.
It has,
ever since I first sort of saw it in chapters, looked interesting. Hey, I should read that someday. Always kind of in the back of my head, and then finally, I don't know, a month or so ago, I bought the first omnibus, and then it was actually Asimov mentioning that I was like, I actually have to open that darn thing and start reading it. So I've read the first 2 or 3 chapters of the first book.
Yeah, I think My Man Jeeves is the one I've read. Mm-hmm. Hilarious. It was absolutely hilarious. Good stuff. I'll be curious to see what you think once you've finished it. But just
I have very British sensibilities. I would have to. I mean, I grew up on Monty Python, Benny Hill, So yeah, the British stuff really speaks to me for sure, and it's a very tongue in cheek, and yeah. And I also started reading The Old Man and the Sea.
Nice.
Which I'm sure I probably read in high school, but that one is actually a book that I'm on James Altiture's he does like a monthly reading list. Mm-hmm. And that was just one that he said he just recently reread and loved, and so I figured I'd give it a shot.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's probably one of Hemingway's better books, I think.
I've tried Hemingway before and didn't really resonate with me, but I know this one is. I mean, like I said, I know I read it when I was in either public school or high school. I can't remember, but I'll give it a reread. See.
Yeah,
and it's short. So.
Yeah, it is short. It is short. I'm not a huge Hemingway fan either, but that was one of the ones that I could read.
I would say that I'm a fan of the language. Like, I mean, that's what he's known for too, right? It's the very just straight to the point, not a lot of flowery. Right. He one of the things Altucher mentioned when he brought up the book was that Flesher something scale that we were talking about that basically tells you what grade level a book is. This is a grade 4 level book, according to the language that's in there. So it's very
to the point, straightforward.
Yep. So I'll report back on that next week.
Cool.
So we can move on to our topic of the week. And I gotta, as I was typing in my notes for the show, I kept typing in favorite historical locations instead of favorite fictional.
I know that's
Well,
the problem I had. I kept being like, wait,
fingers,
that's
yeah,
zero.
the fingers type what they want to type. So favorite fictional locations, and I'll get mine out of the way. If I have to pick a favorite, I'm going with Serenity. I want to be on that darn ship. I've wanted to be on that ship since I first saw it, and everything else that I can think of as far as this topic goes just kind of pales in comparison for me. I have others that I'll talk about, but that's the top of my list for sure.
Nice. Do you think is it the ship itself that you're drawn to, or do you want to be like part of that crew?
Oh, part of the crew for sure. It's everything. It's the being, rebels kind of off, just the life and the ship, the whole thing. That tight knit family that they've got living out there in the verse, having adventures, and so it's both for sure. Man, Whedon knows what he's doing when he does characters, eh?
Yeah,
sure.
So that's the top of my list.
Cool.
How about you guys?
Go for it, PT.
All right. Well, let's see which ones. I kind of kept going back and forth between like, do I want to pick places that I would actually like to go? Because there's lots of really cool fictional places that you would not want to go to at all. I like the Song of Fire and Ice well enough, but I would not want to go to that, go and live in that world like for anything. So I tried to like keep it to places that I would kind of like to go. And one of them is I don't know if you guys have read Sandman at all, but in the Sandman comic there's the World's End Tavern. So it's if you haven't read it, it's kind of a place where people go and they're kind of stranded there by this weird reality storm thing. But it's like people from all over time and all over different realities come together and just have some drinks and tell crazy stories about their different times and
I wonder how much of that was. I can't think of the timeline, but Spider Robinson's books, like they were kind of centered around that same kind of idea, right? Like the bar, and they're telling stories in this bar. I wonder if one of those two. I would guess that Spider came first.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, maybe I just want to go to a bar. I don't know. But that's one of mine. I think it'd be pretty cool to just sit there with a bunch of people from different weird times and realities and tell some stories. How about you, Michael?
This is tough. I've been going through my Goodreads list, trying to think of the places that grab me. I would have to say go traditional and definitely say the world of Harry Potter.
I knew one of us was going to say Hogwarts.
Yeah, I mean, come on. How can you not say Hogwarts? I mean, seriously, that would be awesome, be able to cast spells and go hunt fantastic beasts and things like that.
That's funny, though. It's kind of like the zombie apocalypse. Like, everybody thinks that they're going to be the one to survive.
Yeah.
Right? You think that being in that universe, like, you're just going to be a muggle, right? It's not, your life isn't going to be any different. So you don't just want to be in that universe. You want to be Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Well, you have a 1 in 3 chance, right? I mean, you can either be a wizard, you can be a mudblood, or you can be a muggle. So I don't know.
I think I'd probably be the kid. I'd get to go to Hogwarts, but then I'd get like frozen and turned into a statue like the first day of school, and then Harry Potter wouldn't rescue me till like the last day of school, and I'd be like, oh man, I missed the whole semester.
You know what? I wouldn't even mind being a mudblood, honestly. Just to be in that world and be able to participate in it, I think would be awesome. That's definitely this makes you feel good, right? Like the Harry Potter world. But that, or I'd probably say, in terms of places I probably would not want to visit, but love, probably anything by Ray Bradbury. So his science fiction, not Dandelion Wine or any of that stuff. Something wicked this way comes, but definitely would not want to visit the world of Fahrenheit 451, but think it's kind of interesting. Same thing with the Martian Chronicles. Like, how awesome were his settings and the different crazy things that happened in all of his short stories, but definitely wouldn't want to be on Mars. Those Martians were kind of crazy. So those would be mine. Those are the first that come to mind. I probably there's some others, but those are the ones that, when you pitch the topic, that's like, okay, instant Harry Potter.
Nice. I had one of the ones on my list was similar to Harry Potter was Break Bills from the Magicians trilogy by Lev Grossman. That's kind of the
Okay,
Hogwarts
yeah.
of that. But I went with that because you get to be a little bit older for one thing. You get to be and it's more of a college age, so I can get up to more mischief. And I guess I can go to the bar again because apparently that's a theme with my list. And also, it doesn't seem like as many people like die or like get terribly hurt as in Harry Potter. So that was another one of mine.
Yeah, I haven't read I've read part of The Magicians by Grossman. It sounds hilarious. It sounds really cool. I just never got all the way through it. I don't remember why, but.
Are you guys hearing like a crackling?
Yeah, I do hear that.
You are hearing that too?
It's gone now. It's gone now.
Okay, and I'm just gonna warn you, my internet is looking like it might start acting up here. So if I drop, I'll do what I can to get back in.
Alrighty. Well, we can handle it, right, PT? Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard for me with these fictional locations too, or rather easy in the sense that I could almost say just like any planet where there's aliens or humans have left Earth to go and colonize. I was thinking specifically of like Trantor from the Foundation series, just the center of the galactic empire. Just anything like that would be an awesome place to visit. And or I guess one of my other so you talk about places that would be very interesting, but you wouldn't want to go. I was thinking about the Event Horizon.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, you want to go there.
But it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Did you guys ever see that movie with Lawrence Fishburne, Event Horizon?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I thought of when he said that. But yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I didn't know you were mentioning specifically the movie. It's like a scientific thing,
Right.
Oh yeah. The Event Horizon. Yeah. No, I was talking about the movie for sure.
or insert any 90s era science fiction movie, right? That takes place in space or like Existence or any of those
weird things. Yeah, I wouldn't mind living in the Galaxy universe. There's lots of cool, interesting things going on there.
Yeah. Or I was thinking being John Malkovich. That would be an interesting, interesting world. Wouldn't want to go there though.
It's the locations, especially when you're talking about fictional. A lot of what I was thinking about was like, because a lot of the books I read take place here on Earth, and so it can be a little bit hard where like even the science fiction, even a lot of the science fiction you read just takes place here on Earth.
Yeah.
And so it's you're kind of limited to, not limited, well maybe, where like, so there's you could live in you could go to Narnia, you could go to Middle Earth or Hogwarts. We got places like that, although those are still kind of Earth-based really, right? Or you can go to space. So it is kind of hard to nail down. One that actually did occur to me that I've recently read that would be very cool to mess around with was Kevin Tomlinson's The Knot Work.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
That whole universe where you can kind of unravel reality and kind of twist it to your needs, and that's definitely a different idea and would be a cool place to check out.
Yeah, that was a great book. Although I will say that if I lived there, like one of the things that annoys me most is if I get a knot in my shoe trying to untie it. So I feel like I would not be a good fit for that world maybe. But I did
you're just like snipping threads everywhere.
You need to wear the penny loafers when you're in that world.
Yeah.
Tie your shoe and end up in a different universe.
I'd be constantly frustrated if I lived in that universe.
I think a lot of the cool places you wouldn't want to go, like we said, Event Horizon. Another one for me would be Warren Fahey's book Fragment, which would basically be like visiting the Jurassic Park island, but this was a different, same kind of idea, but for me a lot scarier, where a piece of Earth little tiny island just kind of broke away millions of years ago, and life evolved in a different path than it did anywhere else on the planet. And the stuff that's living on this island is just the scariest, you know, from bugs on up to predators. Just stuff that if it ever got off the island, this is the premise, like if any of these things ever get off this island, they will just wipe out everything else on the planet. If you like Jurassic Park, that Fragment is a really good book.
Cool.
Nice. Another one that I had was Superman's Fortress of Solitude. Like he's got the whole Fortress of Solitude, and it's got some cool stuff. He's got a zoo of like extinct animals, like from all kinds of crazy planets. He's got like the little city in the bottle. He's got all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
I'd like to hang out there. I think be good.
Yeah, definitely. That would be pretty cool.
Batcave? Okay, I'll throw you the Batcave.
See, I don't want to go to Gotham City. That just depresses me, you know?
No, but you want to hang out in the Batcave and like play with all the toys.
Yeah, but
Whenever I think of that, though, I think
so
back to the old.
man.
I think it must be the comic books, though. When I think of the Batcave, I picture this massively huge coin sitting in the bat. I don't know why, but I think it must have been something that was in all the comics, where that was one of the things that he had in the Batcave was this giant. I don't know if it was a quarter or what, but yeah, go in there and play with all the toys.
For sure. And another one that I had that we mentioned kind of already was the Ready Player One. I'd like to be in the Oasis, the virtual reality game, in that. If I was rich, you know, I don't want to be one of the poor people suffering under the oppressive regime. But if I could be part of the oppressive regime, I guess I'll do that.
It's like I want to be in Star Wars, but only if I can be
Part of the Empire.
I just want to be the Emperor. Yeah.
I'll change it from the inside out, though. You know.
Yeah, one I had down was I don't know if you guys are video game players or not, but the Kingdom Hearts universe.
Oh yeah, that's
by
cool.
Square Enix and Disney. I think that would be pretty cool. Like are you familiar with it?
Mhm.
Sounds like QRPT, but yeah, it'd be pretty cool. Like I just love the idea of mashing up Final Fantasy characters in worlds with Disney, and just like I would have a Keyblade and get to fight side by side with Mickey and Goofy and Donald and visit all these different worlds. I think that. It's an awesome idea. Like just mashing up.
That was an awesome idea. I mean, that was an idea that probably sounds weird on paper, but it was executed very well.
Yeah, and the story behind that is so interesting. Like, I guess in Japan, I guess Disney and Square Enix used to have the same building, and so I guess two employees from each were in an elevator, and I guess they came up with the idea somehow, and that's what they said on paper. It just sounded absolutely ridiculous, but like when you actually started to see it. Made instant sense.
Tell you, living in these fictional worlds, I just think it too, and you brought it to video games. I've been waiting for. So I haven't played games in over a year now.
Yeah, me either.
And there's only a couple things that could probably bring me back into it, and one of them's going to happen. I just started seeing the posters and stuff for the next Star Wars Battlefront.
Okay. Yeah, Battlefront was cool.
It's been so
years.
Many years. Oh,
it's been a while since the last one came
trouble.
out.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it's EA that's doing it. So that's a great game because you actually do kind of feel like you're in the fight and living in that world, and that's just a great series if you like those kind of shooters.
Yeah, and I don't like those sorts of shooters, but that was one that I enjoyed.
It was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun. It was because I mean, you could be so many different classes, and the different worlds was awesome.
I just want to kick an Ewok.
Well, since we're on the topic,
hopefully there's an Endor level.
Yeah. Well, while we're on the topic of video games, there is a place I would love to go. It just takes me back to like a time when everything was happy and rosy and reminds me of my childhood. I would love to be pixelated in the world of Pokemon. Red and blue, not and maybe gold and silver, but nothing past that. just like the cities are named after colors, and you walk into wild grass and Pokemon jump out at you. I mean, it's just be awesome. Walk around with Pokeballs on your belt.
It's funny how quickly or easy this topic gets away from books, eh?
Yeah.
I'll tell you one. So this isn't a fictional location, but the fiction that I read does what does make me want to go there, although I don't in reality, is Florida, and specifically Miami. I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on down there, but when I read
Yeah.
um, Dexter or Carl Hyacin, Tim Dorsey's books, or the Travis McGee books, they just it's crazy. I don't know. It's just there's a lot of insane crap going on down there, and it kind of makes
Yeah.
you want to go and see what it's all about. But you'd want to have an exit strategy for sure.
Nice.
Yeah, like the world's a Grand Theft Auto. All the different cities that took place in. Like Vice City was supposed to be based on Miami, and
Mm-hmm.
that would be interesting.
Nice. Well, this one book that I just read that I had down was City of Stairs. I don't know if either of you guys have read that, but
No.
it's this fantasy book, but it's like there's these gods who like built half of the city, and they with their godlike powers, and eventually these gods are killed before the beginning of the book. So when they die, everything they created just disappears. So like this city is like there's just staircases that like lead to nowhere because the building's gone that it led up to, and like everything that the gods created has disappeared. So it's just this weird eerie city with like just buildings and half buildings gone and stuff. It'd be a good tourist destination. I don't want to live
Kind
there,
of
but
like an Escher painting,
yeah, exactly.
That's and that kind of makes me think too of and you already mentioned Neil Gaiman with Sandman. It's almost you can think of certain authors whose imaginations you'd like to live in, like Neil Gaiman's one with his all the things that are happening in secret behind the veil, sort of, or one that I had thought of as well was maybe to live on the back of a great big turtle in Discworld,
Yeah.
right? Like that's a good one too.
Or even like I guess we're talking about like quasi real world, even like the world of mythologies, like the world of Greek mythology or Native American mythology. I guess like the different ways that people used to see the world or still see the world. I think that's interesting too, especially like when you get into stuff like, I don't know, like Hercules and fighting monsters and morality and what is a gentleman and what is a knight and all
I
those
like
things.
when
I
they
think those
bring
are
that
pretty
stuff
cool.
into today's world, like so the Percy Jackson
Yeah,
stories. Those are pretty cool. Bringing all of that, mythology into, today. That can be pretty cool too.
yeah,
Mashing
it
it up.
can, and it can be overdone, but
Yeah.
when it's done well, it's awesome.
That would be a pretty cool book. That idea that you were just talking about, Michael. If you could jump into people's heads and go into the world as they see it, and like go
Yeah,
into their different, that'd be a cool idea for a story.
yeah. Well, good
Well,
friend of
we
the show,
kind of.
John L. Monk.
I was just gonna say, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, there you go.
that's
He's
that's
sitting there.
that's like his idea to a T.
Yeah, we have to mention that because he kind of already did that. He'd be sitting there. All right, they stole my idea.
Yeah, yeah. Which if you haven't read, it'd be a good one. Yeah,
Kick.
Kick. Yep,
Yeah.
good stuff.
And that's which you haven't read, PT.
Oh yeah, Red Kick.
You have. Okay.
Yep,
Yeah, that's a good series too.
for sure. Have you guys read his new book, The Thief's
No.
Odyssey? It's called.
Yeah, no.
It's
I
good.
have it on I have it on my Kindle ready to go.
I think you'd for sure like it, Patrick, from some of the other books that you've mentioned and stuff.
Yeah, I know it's. I think when that book came out, that was kind of put me in mind of some of the old, because I love a good heist, and it put me in mind of the Donald Westlake books that I used to read, and there's a movie I absolutely love that I need to watch again with Gene Hackman. It's just called Heist. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Danny DeVito, Sam Rockwell, Gene Hackman. Who else is in it? Delroy Lindo. It's my favorite heist movie, and it's just called Heist.
Nice.
So yeah, I think that one will definitely appeal to me. And it sounds like he did a lot of research going into that one too, with the lock picking and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it just seems like it. I didn't actually try any of the techniques. Like I didn't try to break it anywhere, but it seemed like very realistic.
That's cool. Well, since we're talking about indies, I think it would be pretty cool to go to the Unicorn Western world. Get my own unicorn and be a marshal. I think that'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, it'd be pretty crazy.
And that's Sean Platt and Johnny B.
Yeah,
Choate, for anybody
yeah.
who doesn't already know.
Yep, Sterling and
Do you want
Stone
to be a
guys.
fat vampire?
I like fat. I like the fat vampire
So did I.
series. I thought it was hilarious. You know, they
Beam?
don't
You want to
talk
live in
about
the
it as
world of the
much.
Beam?
The Beam is cool, but it's depressing.
Now, you were listening to the audiobook of that, right?
Yeah, season 2.
Okay.
So the Beam is pretty cool too, but I don't know. I'm still a Unicorn Western guy. That's still my favorite series of theirs that they've done.
Oh, sorry, I didn't catch.
I said I'm still a Unicorn Western guy.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I've read a lot of their newer stuff, but Unicorn Western is still maybe it's because it's the first of their stuff that I read, but
I'd like to check out some of the darker science fiction, which are probably more realistic to how it'll be, like, Blade Runner. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, the kind of rundown.
Cyberpunk.
Yep.
Yeah. See, those are cool. They just depress me.
I want to eat some Soylent Green.
Yeah. Soylent Green all day, every day. Paint your walls with it. Build a house with it. I mean, it's good for just about everything, apparently.
So we're coming up on 40 minutes here. Do we have any other last-minute favorite fictional locations?
I think
As always, we'll
think
think of one after 2 minutes after we stop broadcasting. Yeah.
Or we'll see them in the comments later.
Have you? Do you want to check the comments?
Yeah, we're good.
We're good. Okay. So that's it. No more last-minute fictional locations. Okay. Well, PT, thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And if you you want to tell our listeners again just kind of where they can get a hold of you if they want to check out your books.
Sure. pthylton.com. That's Hylton. That's the hub, the official site for all. Don't be fooled by all the unofficial sites that pop up out there. Those are just fan sites. You want the official? Go to pthylton.com.
Okay. So we'd love to hear from you guys out there listening. You can send us an email at tbrpodcast@gmail.com, and be sure to visit our Goodreads page as well if you want to keep up with what we're reading. The link to that is down below. And next week we are going to have A.R. Miller on, and we're going to talk about genre hybrids. And we will see you then. Have a good week, guys.
Take care.
Bye.